The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Again, Jesus left the district of Tyre and went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, into the district of the Decapolis. And people brought to him a deaf man who had a speech impediment, and begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him off by himself away from the crowd. He put his finger into the man's ears, and spitting, touched his tongue. Then he looked up to heaven and groaned and said to him, Ephata, that is, be opened. And immediately the man's ears were opened. His speech impediment was removed, and he spoke plainly. He ordered them not to tell anyone, but the more he ordered them not to, the more they proclaimed it. They were exceedingly astonished, and they said, He has done all things well. He makes the deaf hear, and the mute speak. The Gospel of the Lord. So this that we read is Mark chapter 7, right after the first part of the chapter that we read last Sunday. You remember the quarrel in between the Pharisees and the scribes with Jesus about the purification, the cleaning of the hands. And Jesus saying what is pure and what is impure. Was trying to explain to the Pharisees and then to the disciples, but to no avail. So that Jesus, at a certain point, he says to the disciples, are you also without understanding? And so the gospel today starts with Jesus alone, leaving the disciples, and alone by himself, going to the region of the pagans. He's going in a land, the one of Tyre and Sidon, which is up north. And it's a land where if a Jew went there, the Bible said, if you go there, keep in mind that coming back, you need to shake off even the dust from your feet, because that dust is impure. So you don't want to bring not even the dust here. But Jesus has no intention of shaking any dust from his feet. He's going there, and he's even entering in the house of one of those pagans. And a few verses just before, the gospel that we read, in the house where he's staying, there is a woman coming. She's a Syrophoenician. Her origin are from Greece. She's a Greek woman. And she has a daughter with an unclean spirit. And she is asking to Jesus, will you free my daughter? And the answer of Jesus makes us understand that Jesus himself is in a process. Because Jesus is answering to the woman, it's not fair to take the food from the children and to give to the dogs, which is perfectly the answer of a Jewish rabbi. But then, the woman, she says to Jesus, yes, that's true. But even dogs, they eat what is falling down from the table of the landlord. And so Jesus realizes that this woman, even though she's a pagan, even though she is not Jewish, but she has more faith than anybody else in Jerusalem. And so he concedes the miracle. So Jesus himself is going there in order to understand. Because everybody is saying, those people are impure. And Jesus says that this is not in the spirit of the law. Why? Because all the people are children of God. And every son of God is pure. And the problem is not that you are or you are not a Jew. The problem is what you do. And that's why last Sunday we read the list of the sins from Jesus himself. Then, let's look now at the geography. We started reading the Gospel saying that Jesus left the district of Tyre. So we said Tyre is up north. And then he says, went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee is south. Well, it's north still, in the northern area, of Israel. But in relation to Tyre, the Sea of Galilee, the Lake of Galilee, is south. And on the shore of the Lake of Galilee, you have, in the west side, you have Capernaum. And in the east side, you have the Decapolis, where Jesus is headed to. But Sidon, it's more at north than Tyre. So how can you pass by Sidon to go to the Decapolis? It's as if I said, just to make you understand what the gospel is saying today, that if I were in Los Angeles and I want to go to Las Vegas, to go to Las Vegas, I will pass by San Francisco. Because this means to go to the Galilee, passing by Sidon, which is north. What does it mean? It means that to understand what Jesus wants to do with us today, which is opening our heart, you cannot take shortcut. There is not a short way. You need to take the long path in order to open your mind and your heart. Because it seems that every Sunday Jesus is desperately trying to explain to us, just like he tried to explain to the Pharisees, just like he tried to explain to the disciples. He's trying to explain to us how to open our heart. But we don't. We're stubborn. We are deaf. And here comes the miracle of the gospel of today. So they bring him, this deaf man, and they run the miracle. And then everybody is so happy that everybody wants to advertise, what Jesus did. And Jesus is against that. Only because he's humble? Yes, Jesus is humble. But it's not out of humility that Jesus is demanding them not to say to anybody. Is forbidding to advertise him as the Messiah, as the Son of God who works miracles. Why? And also the demons. The demons that Jesus is casting out from people, they say the same thing that people are saying. They also say aloud, you are the Son of God. You came us to destroy us. And Jesus is against that. He tells them to shut up. Why? Because the proclamation of the divinity of Jesus only is an heresy. Is an heresy. There was a man whose name was Arius. Arius, in the Council of Nicaea, 325, he was condemned as an heretic. Why? Because he said Jesus was only God. His humanity, well, he seemed human, but he was not human. So the proclamation of the divinity of Jesus only is an heresy. Just like the proclamation of Jesus as a man only is another heresy, and it's Nestorius. So you have Arius and Nestorius. Arius said he is only a God, and Nestorius, he is only a man. Both were condemned. One in the Council of Nicaea, 325, and the other one in the Council of Ephesus, 431. So what's the truth? The truth is that Jesus is both. But the salvation that he brings to us doesn't bring to us with miracles, because if it was only about miracles, well, Jesus could run miracles from heaven. No need of incarnation. But what Jesus did in order to save us, he did it as a man. Amen. He was not the super powerful man who went up on the cross to save us. He went on top of the cross only with the powers that a man has. Just like with the strength, with the same chances that you have. Just like the saints. We imagine the saints like superheroes who run miracles. They were and they are totally like us. You can be one. You have all the chances to be one. The only problem is that our ears are closed, just like our mind, just like our heart. And this is what desperately Jesus is trying to do, to open our heart. And to open our heart sometimes, it takes tough things. Sometimes it takes a fight. Sometimes it takes a disease. Well, it's not that God is sending that, but he's using everything. Sometimes he takes a sin. There are sins that until you don't do them, you don't understand. For example, the prodigal son, which is in the parable of Jesus. He never existed, the prodigal son, but he always exists in all of us. The prodigal son, he never opened his heart to his father, not even when he was in front of those pigs. Not even when he wasted all his money. Because at that point, well, he realized that he needed to go back because he had no chance, but his heart was still closed. Still closed. When his heart started to opening. When he went back and he realized that his father was still there at the door, waiting for him, and didn't even allow him to talk, to ask for forgiveness. But he rehabilitated his son inside the house. Then his heart opened, really. But after all that waste, all those sins, all that time, sometimes we need to do the toughest, the harshest experiences in order to understand what really Jesus is trying to tell us. Today, in the second reading, we have James chapter 2. Yes, we know that James is always a very practical writer. So when you hear the second reading from the letter of James, listen carefully. And we listen what today he said. You are an evil judge sometimes because you make distinctions. We all make distinctions. Nobody can say that we don't. Why? And he gives an example that nails us to the reality. If there is a rich man coming, because you see him very well dressed, you treat him in a way. And if you see a poor man coming, very bad dressed, then you treat him in another way. And we do this all the time, not only with poor, but even with our friends, even in your family, even with the people that you know, even with your parishioners. You don't treat them all at the same way. And this is one thing, but there are many things that Jesus wants us to understand, to open really our heart to the news of the gospel that Jesus every Sunday is offering us.